Hey, Happy New Year from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We're broadcasting from the Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, political issues related thereto, and self-defense issues. Fired Up is on our website, firedupwithbobirwin.com, and on the American Guns and Glory Network. It's also separately on YouTube and numerous other media. A new show is posted every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, except today we're posting it on Friday. We ran into a scheduling problem here and ended up having to do the show on Friday instead of Thursday. That's why you couldn't find it. The audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out all the stations at KELY1230.com. You'll find a station in your area. It's about 20 stations, AM and FM, throughout Nevada. Questions or comments, you can send an email to me at bob@firedupmail.com. Again, that's bob@firedupmail.com. Or leave a message on my office recorder, 702-257-1060. Again, that's 702-257-1060. If you leave contact information, we'll respond by email, text, or telephone. Questions directed to our guests will be forwarded, although today's guest has his own website, which we will give you in just a moment. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms every week in the United States, rarely truthfully covered by any mainstream media. We always present a few of those for our listeners' educations. Most of the stories I use are good shootings. Some are questionable. Sometimes they're actually wrongful shootings, but I use them because they're educational to firearms owners if you carry a gun or keep a gun in your home for self-defense. And the disclaimer here is I want you all to remember that individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law. The advice here might not apply to listeners in different jurisdictions. More importantly, stories are often paraphrased for clarity by me translating it from police jargon or lawyer speak or regional accents into standard English. So some of the quotes will not be exact as I change them to make it clear without the local color being thrown in that you can't understand. The incidents are as reported, except the names of the participants are omitted. My guest today is California and Nevada attorney Donald J. Green. Don, welcome again.
Of course,
I'm really glad to see you today.
Thank you. Starting a new year.
We are, would you give the listeners a little bit of your background and
Sure.
we'll delve into this?
Sure. Well, first of all, Happy New Year to you, Bob, and your staff, Rigel Studios, and your listening and viewing audience. Again, my name is Don Green, and for those of you who haven't seen Bob and I at most of the gun shows in Nevada, the emphasis of my law practice is dealing with firearms, and that is whether you've been denied a firearms, let's say you've filled out the application, you've been denied for some reason, or there's a delay in your background, we can take a look at those. 95% of the people who come to me, we don't charge for a consultation to look at your paperwork, and we give you some ideas on how to approach a particular situation. We represent federal firearms dealers, individual sellers. We're going to be quite busy now with the new background check law and the red flag law. I haven't seen any incidents on that, but you're always welcome to call me. My direct cellular is area code 702-409-8239, and we will return your call. Thanks.
And he does return the call. This first story comes from the Los Angeles Daily News. A reporter named Eric Likas was reported December 23rd, 2019, just a week ago, basically, from the time we're doing this show, but last year, in Canoga Park, California. A resident returned from work around 3:30 in the afternoon to his Canoga Park home to find one of his home's doors unlocked and his dogs loose in the property. They're normally locked in the house. Something didn't feel right, so this is a quote, something didn't feel right, so he went and armed himself. Next thing you know, he's face to face with a pair of burglars, according to Los Angeles police officer spokesman Drake Madison. The confrontation ensued between the victim and at least one of the thieves. It was actually a fight, what he's calling a confrontation. During the fight, the resident was shot in the leg with his own gun. The gunfire was registered at a house near the 6900 block of Verrill Avenue, and the police responded. This came in as a neighbor seeing it. Both suspects managed to evade arrest and were sought by police as of last report. Detailed descriptions of them were not immediately available, and the resident is expected to survive his injuries. This resident, my comments, is fortunate to survive. Finding your door open, back off, turn on your video phone, and call 911. You have no idea how many perps are inside or what they are armed with. This area is heavily populated, and police response is usually quite fast. Why would you risk your life when you've got cops available to do it? Mr. Green.
Bob, I agree with you that the homeowner is probably lucky to be alive, or lucky that he didn't suffer more substantial injuries. In this case, we have a situation where we almost have the homeowner taking the gun to the gunfight. Number one, we don't know where the gun was stored when he armed himself. Was it in the vehicle? If it was in the vehicle, where was the ammunition? Because in California, unless you've got a concealed weapon permit, the transport, the transport of that firearm, there must be in a locked case in one part of the vehicle, and the ammunition in the trunk or locked in a separate container, because you just can't transport a firearm from point A to point B. Was the ammo legal? Was the firearm legal? That is, could it chamber more than 10 rounds in the magazine? And now, although the magazine ban is still in effect right now, the order enjoining the magazine ban is still in effect in California. You still may have some overzealous prosecutors who may try to charge something regardless of what's been going on in federal court. So, again, where were the weapons stored? Did he go into the house and get the weapons, which would be idiotic from most points of view? And of course, he may not have been trained in the use of that weapon in close quarter combat, so to speak, because he gets shot. Again, as Bob points out, he's lucky to be alive. Call 911 when you see the door open. This is a residential area in Canoga Park, so someone could have been hurt other than the homeowner, and it could have been a lot worse. And notice the time. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. And this is the first of a couple of stories that we have today, which are dealing with brazen acts by perpetrators right before Christmas in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah. We're going to take a short break here for a brief word from some of our friends and associates. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. And we are back. This second story is from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, reported December 24, 2019. Again, about a week ago. This is on Christmas Eve, obviously. In Belleville, Illinois, The St. Clair County Sheriff's Department is investigating an incident in which police say an armed intruder was shot twice in an apartment on Tuesday afternoon. This would be 2 days before Christmas. Police say that just before 4:30 in the afternoon, a 20-year-old armed man tried to steal a woman's car in a parking lot on Elmway Court. For some reason, he wasn't actually able to steal the car, couldn't get into it or couldn't get it started or something. Anyway, according to police, he wasn't able to steal the car. So he then went to a nearby apartment building, broke several windows, and held a group of people inside an apartment at gunpoint. Police believe a neighbor heard the commotion in the apartment and came to the residence armed. That neighbor saw the intruder and shot him twice. We don't know whether he shot the guy inside or outside. Again, that's the problem with using current stories. We don't have a lot of detail available. But anyway, he shows up and he shoots the intruder twice. Police arrived and helped get the intruder to a hospital. The subject has injuries that aren't considered life-threatening, and police have not reported any additional injuries. And nobody was hurt but this guy who broke people's windows and tried to steal a car and so forth. This is, I said, this is an early report with very few details. The helpful neighbor seems to be reacting to what he believes is in a reasonable manner. However, it's doubtful he could know who was who and what was really going on. Without being there from the beginning and knowing who the players are, and intervention here is honestly really just foolish. I'll leave that to you, Mr. Green. Again, this is an Illinois case, so we've got all the gun restrictions available.
Yes.
And
let's transfer this case to California. There's going to be two people booked into the jail. There's going to be the armed intruder, and then there's going to be the neighbor. Why the neighbor? You can't take a gun to a gunfight. And as Bob points out, the neighbor didn't know who was who because the the perpetrator held a group of people inside an apartment at gunpoint. These incidents occur in a matter of milliseconds. So for an untrained, possibly untrained neighbor to go to the residence armed and then try to take out the intruder and shoot him twice, I think that this neighbor in California is possibly facing at least attempted murder with use of a deadly weapon, discharge of a firearm into an occupied structure, discharge of a firearm from an occupied structure, discharge of a firearm where others could be injured, among a host of other crimes. The bail in Los Angeles County or San Diego County or San Francisco County would be probably $250,000 to $1 million for this man. In the Cal counties, San Bernardino, Humboldt County, Nevada County, there in California, maybe it's a little bit less, but this man definitely is facing some charges in California. In Nevada, it's going to be a little bit more problematic, simply because if the neighbor knew these people, again, where was the threat of great bodily injury or death to the neighbor? Now, if the neighbor's children or grandchildren were next door in this other house, and his grandchildren or his children or his wife or his brother was being held at gunpoint, it changes the dynamics of this particular case. But right now, I think that in Nevada, it's going to be very close as to whether or not this, Good Samaritan neighbor will be charged with the crime.
yeah, this is, as I said in the end, this is a really foolish case. He goes with just no knowledge. I mean, if this guy, not being familiar with how the Illinois law works, but if this guy had a legal firearm, he had a concealed carry permit, and I couldn't find any mention of it in the article, whether he did or didn't, but there was nothing that he was arrested for an illegal gun. So we're going to presume he had a permit, which presumes in Illinois he has some training. And that whoever trained this guy did not get through to him that, as Don said, you can't bring a gun to a gunfight. Don't go to the gunfight. If you
That's right.
It gets to the people you say, well, and I've heard this from several people over the years, that, well, you know, I knew someone was in trouble, so I had to get, you know, I had to help. But if you can't tell who's in trouble and you don't know who the players are, you don't know who's in trouble. We've actually had cases where really somebody didn't see a camera and we had a armed citizen jump in the middle of something that's being filmed on video for a TV show. And he didn't, you know, he's looking at the action, he doesn't see the cameras, doesn't see the director sitting in his chair, and charges into the middle of unarmed robbery, but it's not real.
And Bob,
Would
you and I point out at almost every gun show, and especially this past weekend at the Palace Station in Las Vegas, Nevada, of the 40 or 50 people I talked to on Saturday, let's say about 20 of those people had concealed weapon permits and they wanted to know about reciprocity and things like that. Of those 20 people, I would say that only 1 or 2 had gone to additional training in between the time they got their CCW or their renewal and the time of the gun show.
Right.
Extra training. You've got to do it, because one of the very first questions I'm going to ask you as you're on the stand fighting for your life in front of 12 strangers, well, 14 with the 2 alternates, because his maybe 4 alternates because it's first-degree murder. What training, in addition to your CCW class, have you, Mr. X, gone to and engaged in since the time of your issuance of your CCW? And I would like to see that answer. Well, I went to some additional training to learn about proficiency with my firearm and new laws on self-defense.
Yep. And despite the fact, we've had people come in, I had a couple of them last show we were talking about, that come in and they have their CCW permit from Nevada. I know they took a class somewhere, and they never fired their gun since the last time they took the class. And you say, well, you know, should I get insurance, you know, on that? Yes.
Yes.
You should get insurance. Well, if I'm right, I can't be sued, right? If they don't understand, you don't have to be wrong to get sued.
Right.
They missed something in the class, or the instructor just, I don't know what he was teaching. But yes, you will be sued, even if you're right. We're going to pause for a moment for a word from some of our friends and associates. We'll be right back. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man. Don Green, 702-409-8239. At Ricardo's Restaurant, where you'll usually find me eating lunch every day if I can get there, they're at the corner of Flamingo and Decatur here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-227-9100. That's 702-227-9100. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. And we are back. This last story comes to us from my favorite newspaper, the San Francisco Chronicle. was reported December 24th last year, Christmas Eve, y'all remember that, 2 days a week ago, in San Francisco, California. An armed convenience store clerk thwarted a robbery. The owner of Cam's Market on Port Chicago Highway said 2 men entered the store about 11 p.m. Now, I got to tell you, he was not actually there. He's reporting what the clerk did and what the video showed. Anyway, the video footage from a camera facing the counter shows 2 men, one dressed in a black sweater with his face covered by a cloth and dark sunglasses, the other wearing a blue jacket and a green hoodie. They walked into the store from the front entrance, but go separate directions when they enter the store. The store clerk is putting some money away behind the counter, glances up at the men, but remains focused on his work. That was not a good idea. They were wearing masks. The first man comes behind the counter and then pistol whipped the employee, the cashier behind the counter. He held him at gunpoint while rifling through the cash register and placing money in a box. The clerk stands up, makes eye contact with the thief who had just pistol whipped him before the robber runs away without the bin of cash. Investigators later determined the clerk had shot the assailant during the attack, said a spokesman for the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office. Responding deputies found the robber suffering from a gunshot wound on the ground near the store outside at the intersection of Lynbrook and Desaney Way, if you're from San Francisco. He was pronounced dead at the scene. His identity was not released immediately. The second robber, at least as of this broadcast, escaped. This video, when you look up this, you can find the video on the San Francisco Chronicle's website and a number of other places now. This certainly appears to be a valid self-defense shooting in almost any jurisdiction. In San Francisco, with all its gun laws, maybe not. Was the clerk really in danger? Of course. Could he have just handed over the money or run out the back door? We don't know that. We don't know the layout of the store. But the interesting part is watching this video. I watched it 15 times, and you cannot see the clerk actually shoot him, which brings up the point of video doesn't always show everything that's going on. It's moving too fast. The angles are wrong. But it turned out the clerk shot this guy and killed him. Mr. Green, there's a lot of stuff here. San Francisco.
Yes. Generally, you hear me talk about California cases and the good person, the homeowner, the business owner are going to jail because of things they did wrong. In this case, I would defend the clerk. Number one, as Bob points out, although we do not see the actual shooting where the clerk had discharged the firearm or the firearm discharged somewhere, even if the man was shot in the back and it was during the scuffle, was the clerk justified in the use of deadly force? Answer, yes. He was behind the counter in a confined area. Where would he have gone? Because remember, one of the intruders went right behind the counter and then started pistol whipping. So at that point, the clerk had no affirmative duty to try to escape and leave this situation. You have the right to defend yourself when you're being pistol whipped. The clerk stands up and makes eye contact with the man who had just pistol whipped him. The man runs away. Now, as Bob points out, you can't always depend on video. So what does the lawyer do for the client? What does he do for the clerk? We break apart every single point in this case to show that all of this happened in seconds. As Bob and I are quick to point out many times, for concealed weapons type shootings, 3 seconds, 3 feet, 3 shots. It's that quick. So in this instance, it would be Bob and I, as the expert and the attorney, to break this apart and show that at each moment, each frame of this particular video is going to tell us something. It's going to tell us about the fight. It might not show the shot, but was the shot during the fight in which the clerk had reasonably believed that his life was in danger or he had been subjected to great bodily injury or death? The answer is yes. So,
Absolutely.
and this is where Bob and I would come in and again, break apart this video to defend this clerk.
And this is where you want the decision, you want a jury trial in most cases, because you're appealing. The law says he's wrong in San Francisco. So you've got to get somebody who could look at this and say, yeah, but that law shouldn't apply to this guy, you know? So I'll leave that decision up to Don Green when we're in the courtroom, who's going to be on the jury. But you can check out our recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen recent episodes. Gosh, there's probably 30 of them on there now. Please patronize our friends and supporters. We'll be back next Thursday on our website, firedupwithboberwin.com, on YouTube at the American Guns and Glory Network, numerous other websites, television, and radio stations. When watching any media, just click the word subscribe. It'll be there somewhere on the screen, and you'll get new shows sent to your computer or phone automatically every Thursday around 5 p.m., unless it's this week. And please forward these broadcasts to your friends. By the way, our logo merchandise, shirts and books and hats and so forth is for sale, available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus, on the Las Vegas Strip, easy to find. And please remember, the audio portion is repeated on the Nevada Talk Network, all across Nevada, Saturdays at noon. You can, again, find the stations at KELY1230.com. Thank you for supporting Fired Up. We'll see you next week on Thursday. Have a good evening.